2025. 3 names, 10 final breaths, 10 last words. This was the month where the death penalty in America took center stage, and some of the most shocking cases in recent history came to a brutal end. But who were these people? What did they do? And what were their final moments like? Tonight we go behind the statistics and dive deep into the chilling stories of those who faced the ultimate punishment. Jessie Hoffman Jr., Louisiana, executed on March 18th, 2025. November 26th, 1996. Mary Molly Elliott, a driven and ambitious advertising executive, ended her day in New Orleans, key in hand, her mind buzzing with thoughts of tomorrow. But tomorrow would never come. She felt a shadow move behind her, a gun pressed against her ribs. A calm, controlled voice changed the course of fate. Jessie Hoffman forced Molly into his own car, forced her to withdraw money from an ATM. But it wasn't about the money. It was about power, cruelty, a final, horrific act. He drove her far from the city, into the darkness of St. Tammany Parish. There, under the silent canopy of trees, the unthinkable happened. By morning, Molly Elliott was gone. Her bright future had been stolen in a brutal incident that would haunt Louisiana for decades. The trial was swift. The evidence was overwhelming. The jury wasted no time. Guilty of kidnapping, rape, and murder. By 1998, Jessie Hoffman was sentenced to death, and for nearly 30 years, death had been on the horizon. Now, the wait was over. On March 18th, 2025, Louisiana was set to carry out its first execution in more than 15 years. But this time, it was different. The method, nitrogen hypoxia. Some called it humane. Others condemned it as cruel. The process has been mired in controversy. Hoffman's lawyers fought to stop it, calling it experimental and dangerous. But the court ruled otherwise. The death penalty will be carried out. Some called it justice. Others called it wrong. But one thing is certain. Nearly 3 decades later, the past is not over for Jessie Dean Hoffman Jr., and no one will ever forget that fateful night in Louisiana. The storm or the silence. Aaron Brian Guns, executed on March 19th, 2025. It was January 2003 when Officer Robert Flannery approached a vehicle, unaware that the man inside had already taken a life. Before he could react, 2 gunshots rang out, but fate had other plans. Flannery's bulletproof vest stopped the rounds, allowing him to walk away with his life. Aaron Brian Goons, however, wouldn't be so lucky. He was arrested the very next day, sealing his fate. Fast forward to 2007. Guns pleaded guilty to the murder of Ted Price and was sentenced to death. But his case took an unusual turn. Unlike most on death row, he embraced his fate. He wanted his execution. He called it long overdue. Yet Arizona's death penalty was anything but swift. Delays, legal battles, and a temporary halt to executions left Goons in limbo. The years dragged on. He grew impatient, frustrated. In 2022, he formally requested to be executed. Then, a twist. He withdrew his request, citing concerns over the state's mishandling of lethal injections. He was no longer just waiting for death. He was waiting for it to be done right. Meanwhile, Ted Price's family, especially his sister, Karen, fought for justice. To them, Guns' execution wasn't just about punishment. It was about closure. Then came the final decision. February 11th, 2025, the Arizona Supreme Court issued an execution warrant. March 19th, 2025, Aaron Brian Goons was scheduled to die by lethal injection, making him the first person executed in Arizona since 2022. Was this justice? Was this closure? The debate over capital punishment rages on. But for the family of Ted Price, the long wait was finally over.
A metal chair, a hood over his head, and a target over his heart. That is how South Carolina death row inmate Brad Sigmund chose to die.
The case place of Brad Sigmund March, 2025. A day that will go down in history. A day when the state of South Carolina resurrected one of the most controversial execution methods in modern history, the firing squad. This is the story of Brad Sigmund, the first person executed by firing squad in the U.S. in over a decade. What led to this moment, and what does it mean for the future of capital punishment in America? To understand why Brad Sigmund faced the firing squad, we need to go back to 2002. Sigmund was convicted of the brutal double murder of David and Gladys Lark in Greenville County, South Carolina. According to prosecutors, Sigmund bludgeoned the elderly couple to death with a baseball bat inside their home. The motive? A domestic dispute involving their daughter, whom Sigmund had been dating. The evidence against Sigmund was overwhelming. His DNA was found at the crime scene. Witnesses placed him near the victim's home. The jury deliberated for only a few hours before handing down the ultimate sentence, death. But that was just the beginning of his 2-decade-long journey through the legal system. Death row and delays. For over 20 years, Sigmund sat on death row as appeals and legal challenges delayed his execution. South Carolina, like many other states, had difficulty carrying out lethal injections due to a nationwide shortage of execution drugs. Pharmaceutical companies refused to provide the necessary chemicals, leading to a halt in executions. With lethal injection off the table, South Carolina lawmakers made a bold and controversial decision. They reinstated the firing squad as an alternative execution method, alongside the electric chair. The reason? To ensure the state could continue carrying out death sentences. This decision sparked national outrage and heated legal battles. The return of the firing squad. The last execution by firing squad in the U.S. took place in 2010 in Utah, but South Carolina's decision in 2021 made it one of only 3 states, along with Utah and Mississippi, to allow this method. The execution process is brutal, yet methodical. The inmate is strapped to a chair with a target placed over their heart. A team of trained shooters, armed with rifles, fires in unison. One of the guns is loaded with a blank, so no one knows who fired the fatal shot. Proponents argue that this method is more humane than botched lethal injections. Opponents call it archaic, cruel, and barbaric. The final hours, March 8th, 2025. The execution date is set. Sigmund's final appeal is denied by the U.S. Supreme Court. He is moved to a holding cell next to the execution chamber. He requests his last meal, fried chicken, mashed potatoes, and a slice of chocolate cake. He makes a final phone call to his family and meets with a chaplain. The clock is ticking. The execution. At exactly 6 p.m., Sigmund is led into the execution chamber. Witnesses, including journalists, legal representatives, and victims' family members, watch in silence. Sigmund is strapped into the chair. The execution team takes their positions behind a curtain with small firing slots. A countdown begins. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. At 6:05 p.m., Brad Sigmund is pronounced dead. The first firing squad execution in 15 years is complete, but the controversy is far from over. The execution of Brad Sigmund reignited the capital punishment debate in the United States. Human rights organizations condemned it, calling for a ban on firing squads. Supporters argued that justice had been served, but one question remains. Will other states follow South Carolina's lead? As lethal injection becomes harder to obtain, some states are considering alternative execution methods. From the electric chair to nitrogen hypoxia, the future of capital punishment is changing. Will firing squads become the norm? Or will public backlash force states to abolish the death penalty altogether? One thing is certain. Brad Sigmund's execution was not just about one man. It was a moment that forced America to confront its stance on the death penalty. What do you think? Was justice served? Or was this a step backward for human rights? Let us know in the comments. And subscribers, preview of next True Crime video.